Hello and welcome to the Let That Shift Go podcast. I'm Noel.
And I'm Lena.
And this is where we talk about the good, the bad, and all the shift in between.
We'll just talk mad shift.
Let's get into it. And on this week's episode, we're going to talk about a shift I recently took.
Big shift.
A big fat shift.
And I have no idea what it is.
Yeah, so I figured I'd just share with you, but maybe share with everybody at the same time.
Okay.
It's something deeply personal, but I thought, why not share? But first, let's get into these skin deep cards and see if we can open up a little vulnerability, make me feel a little easier about what I'm about to do here. Okay. You want to go first or me?
You go first.
All right. The question is, when you think of our family, what is the first image that comes to your mind?
Dad took us to do a lot of things like at Shelter Island when we were little. When I think about like the happier things, it's that he used to take us to go do stuff all the time outside, and that we would always be doing things like a bucket of sand and, bacon on a string or whatever. And it was like we would just play.
Or catch crabs on the rocks.
Yep.
Yeah, I do. I remember that.
Yep.
That's a good image. It really brought me back to those times. Yeah, I remember hanging out at Shelter Island in the motorhome or in a van or whatever and just
play. Yeah. And he never said you can't bring those back with you. We'd have a bucket of crabs and it's like, cool. Nobody was like, we can't bring those. So it was just like a sense of play. And I loved that.
Okay.
I still have that, I think.
What's your question?
What do you really want to tell me?
Well, a perfect segue into this topic about me recently taking a shift. So, some of you may know I've been going through a lot of changes in my marriage and in my family. Been close to divorce a couple of times. We've been married since 1999 and together since 1991.
Okay.
And through that time, we've changed significantly as people and individuals. And, and more recently, since I've been coming to my awareness, I have really just taken stock of like how I affect other people. And it's brought a lot of stuff to my attention. And through this time, I've been just struggling to try to, pull myself back to center and be able to be response-able instead of reacting to everything and being less explosive to things and really unplugging the story behind all the hurts in me. And doing all this work and the breath work and even all of our conversations, I still struggle,
right?
Every day.
Right.
And one of the biggest struggles, I think, is just myself of security and sovereignty and just knowing that I'm okay. And I have like a deep abandonment issue just because of, growing up and not feeling like I had any solid presence in my life and just moving as a kid, as a Navy brat and always having to start new friends and new places to live and just being completely,
like an instability.
There's no stability.
Right.
And so as an adult, I've just been seeking stability. And I'm looking for that desperately now, connection and stability. And so, me and Ellen have been working through our process of healing and going back through and just working through the hard parts. And a lot of it is just me not hearing her message and understanding her. And with somebody who has, the avoidant type attachment style, and I have an insecure attachment style, which is or anxious attachment style, and then you have secure in the middle, and then you have avoidant on the other side of that. And so we have the anxious avoidant or a trap attachment style trap. And when I am in conflict and I need and I'm stressed, I really seek to have physical touch and quality time and hug and just really be and connect. But with Ellen, she has an avoidant type attachment style. So when she gets into conflict, she really wants to isolate and pull away.
Right.
And so that created this real big conflict. Like I felt like she was never going to be there for me because she needed to pull away in the times when I needed her most.
Right.
And most of it was because we didn't understand each other. And in these last, couple of years, I've been really trying to understand her, which is an impossible task,
Yeah.
But I found the key was actually just understanding myself more.
Yeah.
And when I found that really what I was seeking was security and stability, I find that a lot of the things that I struggle with Ellen is I always feel like at any moment she's going to leave.
Yeah.
That if I do one thing wrong, if I react the wrong way, then she's going to say, you know what, I've had enough. This is taking way too long for you to change, and I'm done. And she for a long period of time, she didn't even wear a wedding ring. And that was something that for me represented security and our marriage and safety and stability. And when she didn't wear it, it just made me feel unstable. Yeah. It was a representing instability for me. So, which is really hard. Anytime she was out in public or doing big events, I was always like, but she's doing it without a ring on and all these things. But recently in the last couple of months, she started wearing her ring again, and it brought some stability back, but it scared me when she put it on. I couldn't even acknowledge it. When I came home and I saw that she was wearing her ring again, it means so much to me that I was afraid to acknowledge that she was wearing it. And I didn't, because there was my son's friends were around. And when I saw it, when I first come home, and I was like, oh my gosh, what does this mean? Does this mean that that she's back fully? Because even though we're living in the same house, in the same room, and I feel like we're probably in a better place than we've been in a long time, I still feel that instability. Like I can't be at peace. I can't let down my guard with her because I don't feel safe.
Right.
And recently she's been wearing a ring, but for some reason that still didn't complete it. And I didn't know what it was. And I have this irrational thing that I think I need her to do something for me to feel secure.
Okay.
And I know everything, that we talk about explains that everything that we need is within ourselves. But that's not always easy to do.
Yeah.
And last weekend, we've been having more and more deep conversations where we're able to resolve conflict without not being able to talk to each other afterwards.
Okay.
Now we're having, conversations where we're hearing each other using the circling technique and repeating what we say and asking a deepening question. And we're doing all of that as much as we can. And it's really just helping for me to let her know that I'm hearing her and that I understand her. Because I think with the avoidant type attachment style, the thing that makes her feel secure and safe is feeling understood.
Okay.
And she hasn't been able to feel that because I've spent so much time justifying what I do and why I've done it. Oh, it's because of this and because of I was raised like this and just this is how I had, poor examples of men and all these things. But all of that invalidates her hurt because I'm just making excuses for why I did something and not understanding how I hurt her, how it made her feel, and why it made her feel that way.
Yeah.
And the second I took the time to understand that part, things started to shift.
Once you took yourself out of the story of it and made it mean something about you.
Yeah.
And just allowed her to be heard.
So the last weekend we were very busy and we had a family therapy together with Mary Gail and with my younger son. And it was incredibly moving because I was able to hear and repeat back to my son and hear things and hear each other. And I think we all three of us came to a place where we just had an understanding and a more clarity, especially for Logan, being able to understand where we come from, where we're coming from, and then us hearing where he's coming from.
So everybody being able to be seen and heard.
Yeah, and I think that's the key. And so what that did that weekend, so that was Saturday. And so it was a extreme busy weekend for getting stuff done around the house and cleaning and getting, stuff prepared and doing our little spring cleaning things. And so I happened to be working in the garage and organizing. And I've been recently on this thing where I need to organize my tools so that I have easier access, to them and be able to complete tasks in a much more reasonable, efficient way. Because I spent half the time looking for a screwdriver I can't find or these and that. So I spent time just organizing, and it really felt empowering. That whole weekend was buying this Milwaukee, pack out tool set, and it just felt really great. I was doing that all day, and Ellen was in the house, and the kids were in the house. working on the inside of the house. And Ellen was doing laundry, and she had asked me, hey, do you want me to, do your laundry for you? And I said, no, that's okay. Because I like doing it. And for many years, we've been together for 33 years, and she's always done the laundry for the whole family. And I really took that for granted this whole time. But when we separated and I moved out for a period of time, I took that on doing my own laundry. And it sounds minimal, but for me, I'd never done it, and I never folded clothes and none of that stuff. So I had to learn all of that stuff. And so now it's just become a part of my self-care is folding my clothes and putting them away. And it helps me to stay organized. And so I like that part. And I've continued, even though I'm back in the home and we're living, I still do my own laundry because I in some ways, I don't want to be a burden to her. Because I don't want to, I don't want to be a burden.
Yeah.
And so she had asked me, can I wash your clothes for you? And I said, no, I got it. When I'm done doing my truck stuff, I'm going to come inside and do my laundry. And she said, okay. And so I ended up staying out until 9:00 at night working on my truck. And by the time I walked back in, it was like really late. I was tired. And when I walked into the bedroom, I saw that my clothes were all folded and put away nice. And I thought, wow, that was awesome. And I said, thank you. And she said, I want to talk to you. I want to tell you something. And I said, okay. And she said, it's good. Don't worry. It's nothing bad. And I said, okay. So I showered and we sat down to talk. And she sent me an email. She said, well, don't open the email. I want you to open it after we have this talk. And I was like, what are you going to tell me?
Yeah.
I don't know what this is. And she said, well, it's good. It's, I just want to tell you that I was doing your laundry today. And I have these work shirts. I have a uniform for doing cleaning pools. And it's basically like, it looks like a golfing outfit, like a polo button-up shirt. And this last 2023, I was wearing a dark blue polo shirt, and it's UV protected. And it's kind of shiny a little bit. But she's been telling this last 3 or 4 months, she's been telling me, you need to buy new shirts because these are faded and they don't look good anymore. But for me, I just rather buy things I focus on other people, and I never really do a lot of self-care. And I've been trying to do that. Got braces now. I'm losing weight. I'm taking care of myself. So, but I don't know why I didn't buy shirts or buy new uniforms for myself. And she in the past, she would tell me, why don't you just buy new uniforms? Those look terrible. I don't know why you don't just buy new uniforms. You're not broke. Like, just buy the uniforms. And so that's been a nag for the last, 6 months or so. And I haven't bought them, and I'm still wearing them. And the blue shirts now look purple. And you've seen them because I come here on Mondays and I wear them. I'm not wearing it tonight because I've become self-conscious about it. But for a good reason, because she said she was folding these shirts and she remembered a story last week or the week prior where we went to my son's volleyball game. And Ellen's work colors are purple. So she happened to be wearing a very nice outfit all put together because she's in sales. So she's dressed to the T's, to the nines. And we show up to the game and I'm wearing my uniform. She's wearing her work outfit and it has purple in it. And another couple of one of my son's teammates said, oh, you guys are so cute. You're matching. You're both wearing purple. And I got embarrassed because I was like, oh, and the first thing I thought was, she's told me to buy the shirts. And now I'm embarrassed because somebody pointed it out. They didn't really notice, but the fact that it's purple just reminded me that she's been telling me, nagging me. And so I didn't say anything at that moment. I just kind of shook it off at that game and, went about my business. She started to tell me about that story. She said, hey, you remember the other day when we were at the game and they said, you guys are so cute, you're wearing purple? She goes, I noticed something that shifted in me because prior to that, I would have said, damn it, Noel should have bought a damn shirt. I've been telling him to buy a fucking shirt. Like, I don't know why you buy a shirt. Now this lady's saying purple and all that stuff. She said, normally I would have said that. But internally, I felt bad for you. And I thought, oh, I want to take care of him. And I want to get him some shirts. And she said, I noticed it was the first time that I shifted because we got to a point where we were indifferent in our marriage and had a lot of contempt for each other. So it was hard to feel compassion for one another. And so she said, I noticed that this was the first time that I genuinely had compassion.
Wow.
And I was like, wow, because I noticed in myself I just had this feeling, we've been talking about this laying the swords down, and I haven't really had that moment
Oh, yeah.
because I haven't been able to at home. I think that in today's society, there's this perception that men have to be this warrior and strong all the time and never show weakness. Even in the military, it's like, oh, you're a weak mind. You're seeing a therapist. So what are you, weak? What's wrong with you? You have to be strong all the time. You can never show weakness. And the one place I feel that it's important to be able to show weakness as a man is when you come home. You need one place that you can pull down that mask and not be a warrior and be vulnerable and just be yourself. And I haven't been able to do that because I didn't feel like people truly cared. The compassion wasn't there. And it's what I sensed was missing in my marriage for a long time. And when she told me that story, I felt a shift.
Wow.
Yeah. It was so powerful. She was like, are you okay? And I was just crying and I couldn't talk. And I told her, I said, I just feel like I can lay down my swords. I don't have to be this warrior, even at home.
Yeah.
And all this work I've been doing and holding my center and trying to be strong and trying to, be aware in how I act and how I move in the household and in everyday life. But when I come home, I finally feel like I can be me.
Yeah. There's stable ground.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a big shift for both of you.
Yeah. Armando, we came to your house the very next night and recorded a podcast. And we brought the Cybertruck and you guys got to take a look at it. And we were geeking out on all that. So there wasn't a lot of time to really interact with, Ellen and you and Mondo and all that. But Mondo, the next day had called me on Tuesday morning, was like, hey, I noticed something, about you yesterday. How are things with you and Ellen? Because something's different. And I was like, oh, I got to tell you something. And so I shared that story with him. And he goes, have you told your sister? And I said, no, because I want to tell her in person. It's not something that I want to just tell on the phone.
Yeah.
Because it was such a powerful shift.
Yeah, that is very powerful. I mean, in telling it, that I felt this like softening, really thinking about for her to be able to realize that she, could feel that and that she noticed it for herself.
Yeah, that's an awareness within herself.
Yeah, the awareness is such a big piece, and it allows for things to move and it allows for healing to happen, and something that you didn't even notice until she could point it out to say and also to say I got your back,
Yeah. Yeah. That was, in any relationship, I think in business, I say it all the time, I think that's what's made my service industry business so successful is that the core of it is just knowing that the customer knows I've got their back.
Yeah.
That's what everybody wants in any relationship, is just knowing that the person is not going to abandon you. He's got your back.
Well, that is something that I would say, if I had to describe Noel, is number one. Is that I know for me, I know if something happens in my life, other than Armando, Noel is the first person I call because I know Noel's got my back. And so it makes me, I don't know, so happy to know that you have that too, and I know how powerful that must have been to experience it from somebody you care so much about.
Yeah, it's been difficult because she's coming to her awareness in a different way than I am. And it's more, we are totally separate in our healing processes in terms of how we're healing. We don't do a lot of talking about how we're healing individually to each other. But we do bring those tools to each other when we communicate.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Do you think that the conversation with being able for her to feel seen and heard kind of made room for that shift?
Yeah, I think the conversations that we've had more recently, she kind of says it feels safer to talk to me and tell me, because I'm hopefully I'm holding space, in a much more effective and efficient way, and really understanding the circling technique and just active listening, and
deep listening,
deep listening. And then I think the other key to it, because the active listening is definitely the first part of it, but you have to then do something with that, which is don't make excuses.
Yeah.
Be self-convicted
Mm-hmm.
in the things that you've done, because you don't need to make excuses for why you did them, because that only serves you, your own ego. And me making an excuse to the other person does nothing for them but invalidate them, or me make an excuse for why I did it. And once I really understood that, I don't feel the need to explain myself anymore, or why I did something. I'm not perfect. I'm not, I'm human, and I'm going to make a mistake. So I don't need to invalidate you in order to explain why I made a mistake.
Yeah.
I just made a mistake. I'm sorry. I could just say that. But by me in the past, I still said sorry. I'm very apologetic, but I always followed that and added in an excuse.
Mm-hmm. A defense.
And it was a defense mechanism for me.
Yeah.
But that is the critical part for Ellen, I think, to the shift.
Yeah.
Was removing the excuses and validating what I did wrong.
Yeah.
In the past and in any time.
The thing is, like we've talked about circling technique before, but I don't think that the power of it has been, so like evident in a way, like tangible.
Yeah.
And in deep listening, you couldn't possibly be already formulating your excuse.
You can't.
You can't. If you're deeply listening, you're not formulating your excuse. So in that, I think that's the power, right? So like right now with this conversation, I could come back to you with deep listening and be like, okay, so what I hear you saying is that you had this very powerful moment in one, being able to be seen and heard in your therapy, right? Being able to practice that, which seems like it really created a space for everyone to be able to feel like what they're saying was valid. And just by saying, is this what you said? Is that right?
Yeah.
So you went to your therapeutic appointment, you had these conversations that are so powerful where everybody got a turn really to be seen and heard. It wasn't about making an excuse for what happened. And then you watched as, your wife was able to see and hear. It made room for her to be able to see and hear what's going on, even within herself.
Yeah.
And be able to come to you in a way that she felt safe to communicate, like, this is what I noticed, this is what I see, and how much space that created in you.
Yeah.
So it's so beautiful.
And just the closer to that was the email that she sent ahead of time.
Okay, what was the email?
And I was so confused. I didn't know what this email was about. But then afterwards, I opened up the email and it said, I bet you're going to say, I wish you would do my laundry more often. And it is kind of what I said in my head. It was not exactly those words, but it was like, oh my gosh, this came from you doing my laundry. Like, you wash my laundry. I've been trying everything, every tool, everything that I've been praying and meditating on to have this shift. And it happened because she was doing my laundry. And I was trying to tell her not to.
Yeah.
I almost robbed myself of that opportunity.
Yeah. By trying to just I'll take care of it. I can do it.
Yeah.
Instead of allowing yourself to receive.
Yeah. And I think it's just so, the email just points out, because we do, there's a monk on TikTok that I watched that said, that talks about why people yell at each other. And it has nothing to do with proximity, because often when we argue with each other, we're yelling at, but we're right next to each other. But the reason for that is because our hearts are far apart. And our hearts feel the distance. So we feel the need to yell in order to bring your heart closer to mine again. Because if you think about it, we yell at each other at those times. But conversely, when we feel close and connected, I could look at you and not even say anything, and what I'm feeling.
Yeah.
There's no need to even talk, let alone yell. So it has everything to do with the closeness of our hearts is why we yell.
Yeah.
And the communication can happen just by being close with one another.
Well, think about when people are yelling, what's the main reason they're yelling? Is
to feel heard and seen.
Yeah.
And to be understood. Yeah.
Which is the one big, need as a human being.
It just takes one of you to stop and listen. Active listening. that's what I've learned, because I've been doing this damn circling technique for almost 2 years trying. And I just kept going with it because I did see the benefit, but I didn't have the thing that I've been striving so hard for. It didn't get that.
Yeah.
From it.
Until
now. Yeah.
Well, that makes me so happy.
Yeah. There's still a lot of work to be done.
Yeah.
But I feel we have some significant tools amongst individually for Ellen and for myself and for Logan and Aiden, both of my sons, to be able to communicate as a household in a healthy way.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, and these are things that you can practice, even as a family or with friends or whatever, is, hey, let's do this exercise where we just like deeply listen to one another. And what does that bring about, even just physically in your body or in the relationship?
It's hard. I think doing that, I've had less success because I tried, I talk about deep listening all the time. But what I find more practical is to just do it in my everyday conversations.
Mm-hmm.
I do it every time I talk to somebody.
Yeah.
Because the more and more I do it, the better I'm getting. And I think inherently my family around me is picking up on it, because you always say you can't fix anybody else. You can only fix yourself.
Yeah.
And, helping other people I'm just a guide, a signpost for what worked for me. And maybe it may work for you, but if you're watching and I could lead by example, that within my own house, I'm seeing it come to fruition right now. And it's such a blessing. It's so empowering. And all the work that I've been doing has been I've been the happiest and most clear and centered I've ever been in my entire life. But I've still not been able to have peace.
Yeah.
And I have moments of it here and there. But when you're not able to have it in your home, it doesn't quite feel like a home.
Mm-mm. No. Especially that's where you derive so much of your safety,
Yeah.
which all of us do.
I think everybody, not just men. I think women too. Mm-hmm. I talk about that because it's what's most present for me. But I think everybody, women today in the workforce are constantly being put down by the boys' club, right? So you guys have to have a mask of whatever, masculinity, if you will, just to survive it out in the workforce. And then when you come home, there must be something, you must have felt something similar when you were in the nursing industry.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Then did not coming home and not having a place to be able to shut it down.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, and oftentimes, like for me, I didn't want to talk about it.
Yeah.
But that didn't mean that I didn't want to be heard or seen, That's
the irony, is that all we want to do is to be heard and to be seen, but we don't want to talk about those things that will let us be heard and seen.
Yeah.
We keep those, to ourselves.
Yeah, I think I love this. And, even especially when I work with clients too, and I hear them talk about how they're in an argument or they're like, they're misunderstood and all of that, is to just use the circling method as a practice on something that's not charged, right? Because it's really hard to let's do deep listening on this thing that I'm really triggered about. Mm-hmm. So sometimes I'll have people practice with let's just practice where you tell me about your trip to Target.
Okay.
Right? You were going to look for something at Target. You went in, you found a cart, blah, blah, blah.
Ah, yeah, okay.
And it's let's just practice deep listening, circling with something that's not charged, So that way you kind of get them to the habit of it, right? And there's nothing in you that's trying to defend when I'm describing my trip to Target. It's okay, my goal is to just hear what you said.
Yeah, and it's easier for the person listening.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, they can kind of relax into, my only job right now is to listen. Mm-hmm. And then to repeat back what I heard.
Yeah.
Right?
It's so hard. That part right there sounds easy, but for myself, it's the most challenging thing that I've ever done, is to deep listening without already formulating what I want to say back to them.
Yep.
I have to do it in this podcast.
Yep.
While we're talking, I just want to be deep and present with what you're saying. But sometimes I'm looking at notes and I'm trying to look at times and doing, but the deep listening has to still be there, and getting better and better at that. You know?
That's why I say practice it with something not charged over and over. So you create kind of like a muscle memory in your mind, and you start doing it more naturally.
Yeah.
But it's really hard to do it on something, that's really charged
Yeah.
until you've at least practiced it on something that's not.
Yeah. And trying it every day, even at work, when somebody tells you, if you're at work and somebody comes in and talks to you about the problem that they're having, I invite you to be curious and just try it with another person and watch their reaction.
Watch them open.
Yeah, watch them open. Go, wow, they listened to me. They heard me. It's just a different way to communicate, and I notice it even when I use it with clients and customers in the pool industry. They're like, oh, everybody wants that.
Yeah,
everybody wants.
It creates a lot of space. Mm-hmm. It creates a lot of room, and what can happen in that space in that room are shifts.
Yeah,
shifts in communication, shifts in relationships.
But it takes time.
It takes time. It takes practice.
It takes dedication.
I like that. Thank you for sharing that.
It was.
Did you get new shirts, by the way?
I have not, but what I've decided to do is I have a ton of those polo shirts that I no longer wear because they're not really a part of the style that I wear anymore. So I'm going to wear all of those until they're done. But right now I'm looking for something that will replace the uniform.
Please get new shirts.
Oh, I am. Trust me. Yeah.
All right.
All right. That's been another episode of Let That Shift Go podcast. I'm Noel.
And I'm Lena. Let us know what your questions are, and we'd love to use them on a future episode. Or check us out on Insta at Let That Shift Go, or visit our website, serenitycovetemecula.com.